people to get in. Today, we want to talk about manifestation basics, fundamentals, the foundational principles. I think far too often, especially as we're stepping into a new year, many people have made the process of manifestation complicated. And what I want to do is simplify manifestation for you. You're doing this 24/7. Even when you're sleeping, you're manifesting because you're at a particular vibrational state. There's a ancient text that says, "To him, her who has, more shall be given, and to him, her who has not, even that which they have will be taken away from them." So, what I want to do is help you get into vibration. And like I said, you're manifesting 24/7. What we want to do is make it practical, and so that you're doing this purposefully as opposed to doing manifestation haphazardly. So, we're going to be talking about some principles today. As questions come, my suggestion is to make the questions short, because what happens is when they flash up on the YouTube screen, they flash up in a matter of seconds. So if it's too long, I'm not going to be able to read it and be able to respond to you. So I will probably request that you submit the question again, but just make it shorter. So like I said, when you're thinking about putting your questions out there, make them as short, as succinct as possible so that I can answer them and move on. So we're going to be covering 8 steps to manifestation. Like I said, you do this 24/7. So even as I'm giving you 8 steps to manifesting, these steps that you're going to be doing will literally take fractions of seconds for you to process. I'm just giving you the step-by-step process in order to manifest, but I just want you to be more mindful of what it is that you're giving your attention to, because that's what's creating your world. So let's go on and get started. So first and foremost, when we're talking about manifesting, you have to move with intention. So when you're starting out your day, it says in the beginning, God, you are the God creating. And I know that some people take that as a religious connotation and so forth and think that, oh, he's talking blasphemy, he's trying to replace God. We're offsprings of the divine. We're energy systems. We're vibrational beings. And it says that we've been created in the image and the likeness of this energy system. So as we operate from this energy system, as we're vibrating, we're sending out vibrations into the ether, and then those vibrations begin to take form, take shape into what we call reality. Now, I know because we've been so deprogrammed, what I'm saying to you sounds like it's sci-fi, it's make-believe and so forth, but this is literally how your mind works. This has been proven through theology, through science, through government programs. All of these things have been verified that I'm going to be sharing with you today. So again, my goal is to help you become more purposeful in your creation. So let's go and get started. So first and foremost, like I said, and we're going to be using an acrostic called manifest. That acrostic will be added to the YouTube notes when this conversation is done, and I update the image and so forth, and I put the description in. These 8 steps will be inside the YouTube description. So don't worry about trying to write everything down, trying to remember everything. You will have this information once the talk is completed. So first, you have to move with intention. So as you're creating your day, begin each day with deliberate action aligned with your manifestation system. And this is what we're going to be talking about today. Momentum creates compound. A lot of times we want to get into motivation, we want to get all hyped up and so forth. It's you consistently, persistently, that's what's going to create your day. So your momentum as you're creating your day, as you're purposely setting your attention, and the intention is, listen, I got to go to the store today and pick up a few items. Most of us do that so haphazardly, so often, that we think that that's not manifesting, but that's exactly what it is. And this is how you create your day in any aspect, whether you're talking about more money, love and relationship, better health. And so we're going to give you some tools today to allow you to do it. So first, set the intention. So move with intention. The A in the manifestation process or system is affirm clearly. What is it that you want to create in your day? As you begin to think about that, you begin to affirm, today I'm going to go to the store. Today I'm going to go to the park. Today I'm going to meet with. As you do that, you're setting the intention, but you're also affirming what it is that you listen. I'm going to make this thing so practical that you're going to think to yourself, I do this anyway, and it can't be that easy. But this is exactly how manifestation works. You're a manifestation system. You're a conduit of energy. And that energy always, it says that nature abhors a vacuum, that energy is always creative. So, like I said, this is going to sound so simple, so practical, and you're going to say, this is what I do every day anyway, so it can't be. Exactly. This is exactly right. So let's go on and get on with it. So affirm clearly. It says, in the beginning, God said. You're the God, as I stated earlier, creating your day. So what are you saying? So it's raining, for example. You may set the intention with your words that this is going to be a terrible day. So infinite intelligence says, be it done unto you according to as you believe. And understand this, sometimes people get on to my channel or they get onto one of the different platforms and they say, that's a bunch of crock. And I say, you're absolutely correct. Because for that individual that believes that it's a bunch of crock, they're only going to see evidence of this being a bunch of crock. So set the intention with your day and also begin to affirm what it is that you want, not what you don't want. If you say that it's going to be a terrible day, for example, you're affirming that that day is going to be terrible. And like I said, you're only going to be able to see the evidence of it being a terrible day. So state and envision what you want in the present tense using simple language, that everyday language that you communicate with. Clarity programs focus. Confidence follows direction. So when you begin to give your mind something to work with, it's going to begin seeking the evidence of what the intention that you set early on. And again, this thing is happening so fast. This is happening in milliseconds. I'm giving you, let's say, 8 steps using the acrostic manifest. But you got to understand the 8 steps that I'm giving you, this thing is something that happens so fast when you start your day that we don't even think about it. And then we get to the end of our day and we say, man, that was a terrible day. Be it done unto you according to your faith. And even though I may be using scripture, this is verified, like I said, through theology, through science, through government programs. This is how they condition us from the age of infancy to 7 and beyond. So if you understand how your mind works, how these programs work, then you can begin to shift and design your day on purpose. And this is the goal, to help you design your day on purpose. So first, you start your day, you move from a place of intention. You decide what your day is going to be. Then you begin to speak it out. I'm going to do blank, whatever blank is for this day. You begin to set the intention. This is what you're going to do. Sounds like somebody's knocking at the door, so that's why the dogs are barking. We're going to ignore them and move forward. What's going to happen now, again, as we're doing this, you're doing this consistently and persistently, so you're doing this often. Pretty soon this creates your day, your week, your month, your year, your lifestyle. And this is what happens. We do this so haphazardly, and then we say, well, how could God allow this to happen, to let this happen to me? You're the God's creating. So let's move forward. So the next thing, we move with intention. We affirm what it is that we want. Again, we're using manifest as your acronym. Once you set the intention, once you begin to affirm with clarity, what's going to happen? Neville called this bridge of incidents. you're going to start noticing opportunities being presented to you. Good to see you driving with results. Good to see you. You're going to notice that opportunities will begin to present themselves. Now, it's not that the opportunities weren't there all the time, but because you didn't, good to see you, Rafi, because you didn't, thank you. Speaking of the glasses, because you didn't set the intention earlier, you didn't notice it. There's a metaphor, there's a allegory, and it's speaking about a man by the name of Abraham. And he was told to offer up his son. That son is that thing that you desire. And when you begin to offer that thing up and release it, then the evidence will begin to present itself to you. So once you set the intention, so for example, let's say that my intention is I'm going to go to the store and pick up a few items. I'll go online and I'll begin to look at, and the reason why I'm using these practical examples is because this is how manifestation works, no matter what it is that you're trying to manifest in your life. We've so thought that, oh, when it comes to money, that's too big. So, or that's too much money, or, better health or loving relationship. When we begin to say that certain things are outside the grasp of what it is that we want to manifest, then we say, well, those are the hard things to manifest. But these, like going to the store or simply going downstairs and getting a glass of water, we assume that everybody can do that. And it's not so. There's a lot of people that don't have access to water, but there's some people that are physically incapable of going down and getting a glass of water. So what I'm saying to you is the stuff that you take for granted, it's not possible for everyone. But because you do it so often, you say, well, everybody does that. And it's just not so. So even in looking at the aspect of, let's say, going to the store. So let's go on and we'll stick with that model. Everybody's not able for whatever the reason is. So the things that you're able to manifest on a daily basis is not possible for everyone. And even the mere act of thinking about what it is that you want to do and then begin to go about your day to create the atmosphere to create it, it's a miracle. But because we do these miracles on a daily basis, almost without thinking about them after a while, we say everybody does it. And it's just not the case. But let's move forward. So you begin to notice opportunities. Neville called it the bridge of incident. Once you set the intention, recently, this past week, I had thought about a friend, and in thinking about that friend reached out to me, and we started communicating, about, different aspects of life and whatever. And there were some things that I spoke into my friend's life that they said, that's what I needed to hear. Now, once we start setting out the frequency, the thought, you're going to start drawing to you the equivalent of others who need to receive what it is that you have. Let's say that you're offering a product. Say that you're looking for a product. Whatever the case is, I've been looking at doing certain things in this new year. And all of a sudden, in my feed, the things that I've been looking at doing, people, as though they're reading my mind, and they are, because they're targeting a particular audience that says, I need this, even though it may not have been communicated. But all of a sudden in my feed, the thing that I was looking for begins to show up in my feed because I've been sending out vibrationally, frequency-wise, that thought. And you're doing likewise. So I talk about when I was in the Marine Corps, there was a gentleman, nicest guy you would ever meet until he had a few drinks. And then when we would get out in town, and I didn't know this until we went out the first time, and my last time going out with him, he was one that sought there's going to be a fight, as it were. So everywhere he went, once he started drinking, it was conflict. And so, what am I saying to you? If you're looking for a reason to be offended, for example, if you're looking for a reason to be abundant, if you're looking for a reason to be healthy, whatever it is that you're vibrating and you're looking for, and what you're holding as energy, that's what's going to start showing up in your world. Now, you say, well, coach, what I find is the opposite keeps showing up in my world. That's solely, and I know we don't want to hear this, that's because that's what you're holding as a vibrational match. When you begin to change your vibrational match and begin, since you're on the call and you asked the question the other day, I'm going to speak to this and you know who you are. Somebody said, how can we become a vibrational match? How can we get into frequency of the thing that we want to be, do, or have? We do this all the time, but often we're doing it with things that we don't want. But the way that you get into frequency is a little known tool that was taught to you as a child. You start acting as if, you start pretending, you start make believing, you start practicing gratitude, you start. Many of us, we just had Christmas past. So for those who celebrate Christmas or something of the equivalent, no matter what your culture is, there's probably something in your culture that's the equivalent. It may be birthdays, whatever that equivalent is of Christmas. When we start imagining Christmas, especially as children, we start thinking about all the things that we're going to get. And so we put our list out to our parents or to our caregivers or to those who are over us, and we put out to, this is what we want. And because we've put that frequency out and we started believing that we're going to have the thing that we've imagined, we start living from. So we start imagining, make believing, pretending, visualizing, acting as if we have the thing because we know that it's coming. Often I'll go online and I'll get on Amazon, eBay, or some other vehicle and I'll order something. Once I put the order in, I don't say to myself, oh, it's too big to happen. It's not going to happen, because I've paid the necessary requirements. Now, it may be currency. It may be a thought. It may be holding that energy. But I've paid the necessary requirements knowing that that thing is coming to me. So when you know that you have what you say, and the thing is, we have what we say, even if it's negative, good, bad, or indifferent. Most of us are focusing on what it is that we don't want, but we're praying for the opposite. You can only receive ultimately what you're holding in vibration as what's true for you. So often I'll put out a post and somebody says, well, that stuff doesn't work or whatever. And for that individual, it is absolutely true. It will not work because that's the vibration, that's the energy match. That's what they're out picturing on the mirror of, like an Amazon order. Absolutely. Like a postal order. I mailed some items out going back to the Amazon order. I didn't think, now, does everything that the post office, that Amazon, that eBay, that Alibaba, or whatever the vehicle that's being used, get to its destination? Not always. But even if you've placed an order and it doesn't get to you, then you put in a request and say, listen, I did not get my order. I did not get my package. And then they'll go back and do the investigation. So either they'll refund you the money. So either universe will refund you the equivalent or send the thing that you're seeking. We can see that in a practical sense. We have to understand this is also how it works in a metaphysical sense. So notice the opportunities, the bridge of incident. Once you begin to put the request out there, you're going to see the equivalent. I had a car that I wanted years ago. And once I decided upon that car, all of a sudden I started seeing that car show up everywhere, because now it wasn't that the car wasn't showing up before then. It's just that I was not in a place or a vibration to see it. Once you get into a vibration, let's say to create wealth, money, whatever your aspect is of money, you're going to start seeing money opportunities show up all over the place. Once you get into a place where you're able to receive love, you're going to start seeing love opportunities show up. Once you're in a place to get into a state of better health, then you're going to start seeing opportunities for better health to show. It may be somebody saying you got to change your mindset. You got to take this herb. You got to move away from this. You got to move towards this. You're going to start seeing the opportunity that you couldn't see before because you weren't at a vibrational state to see the opportunities. But once you begin to hold the vibration of that thing that you desire, you're going to begin seeing the opportunities. So you're going to notice opportunities. Next thing you have to do, again, we're using manifestation. So we've covered, and like I said, the information, the things that I'm covering is going to show up when I update the YouTube profile and so forth of this particular talk. I'll have the steps, so you'll be able to go back and look at the steps and so forth. The next thing you're going to have to do is invest time. A lot of us, we want certain things to show up in our lives, but we're not willing, we haven't taken the time to be more loving, to be more abundant. This may mean education. This may mean, okay, let me start looking at some videos and so forth on how to not be such an asshole. Whatever that thing is. Let me begin to look at some financial things so that I can begin to understand how money works, how to draw money, how to create money opportunities. Better health. Oh, let me begin to, okay, because I believe that diabetes runs in my family. Let me look at some things that I can do so that I can begin to improve my health. See, most of us want to just stay in our mind. And it starts there. I'm not discounting that. But ultimately, you have to clothe yourself and become the person. Let me give you an example. There was a gentleman, his name was Dave Ramsey. He was in deep financial debt. And he didn't know how to get out of it. So he started doing some research. He started doing the basics. He started budgeting. He started, taking his credit card debt and paying off what he could. Over a course of time, he discovered a system that allowed him to be debt-free and later to become a multi-millionaire. But Dave had to start with the first book, the first lesson, the first seminar. And then he had to begin practicing that new identity. Many of us solely want to get into a state akin to sleep and imagine ourselves, but we don't become the person that's more loving, the person that's more abundant, the person that's operating from a place of better health. And we say, this stuff doesn't work. You start at the first stage of thinking, but lifestyle always shows, reflects, mirrors what it is that we truly believe. It says, as a man, woman thinks in her heart, so is she. So does he. So has they. I added those other, but it says, so is they. So are they. What am I saying to you? Your lifestyle ultimately will take on the persona of the person that you want to be, and have. You can't think contrary to your lifestyle. Ultimately, your core, it says, what's said in secret will be shouted on the housetops. That's simply to say that what you truly believe is going to show up in your life. So if you're still operating from a place of lack, that's only because at your core, that's what you still believe. And there still needs to be some work done. It's not a maybe. If it's still showing up in your life, there's some work that needs to be done. There's some things that you may need to let go. And that's okay. I identify, This is not where I want to go. So now I need to make some changes. There was a gentleman by the name of Dr. Phil, still a gentleman by the name of Dr. Phil. We can't change what we don't acknowledge. But once we acknowledge, okay, my thoughts, the things that I'm doing right now aren't taking me in the direction that I want to go, now I know that I need to make a shift. Now it's okay, what do I need to do? That's a whole new story. But at least we're aware that a shift needs to happen. Okay, so you got to invest the time. And understand this. It's not this, many of us want to make quantum jumps. What you're going to find with change, it's going to be those little small things that you don't even think about. It's going to almost seem effortless. But over a course of time, because you keep repeating those actions, and this is why we call this a system. See, many people step into the new year and they want to set goals, but 2 weeks in, 3 weeks in, a month in, those goals are out the window. There's certain things that you do on a daily basis. You get up, you may brush your teeth, you may have a cup of coffee. I don't know what your system is or what your routine is. Only thing I'm asking you to do is to incorporate small changes that are leading you to where it is that you want to go into your daily routine. Almost unnoticeable. But over time, those small incremental changes are going to transform your life. So let's move forward. So invest the time. Feel it fully. And this is what the question was that was presented to me on the YouTube channel. What is it to feel it real? When you feel it real, when you feel, you're engaging your senses. You're visualizing, you're embodying emotions. You're feeling as though the thing that you desired is already your current reality. Neville called this living in the end. Now, we're all feeling something right now. We could be feeling lack. So you say, well, how can I move from lack to millionaire, billionaire status? It's not going to be a quantum leap. I think that Esther and Abraham says it best. A lot of times it's that move that takes you close. So let's say that I'm feeling depressed. What is that thing that I could watch, I can do, I can have that person that I can find myself in their presence feeling just a little bit better? Then you move from feeling a little bit better to maybe a smile, maybe laughter, but you sometimes have to do these graduation of steps as opposed to doing quantum steps, because that quantum step may, right now for you, may feel overwhelming. But what is that next thing that I can do to get motivated to start that business, to improve my health? Maybe it's start, you know what, I'm going to incorporate drinking water. I'm going to eat more fruits and vegetables. I don't know what the thing is for you. But what you're going to find is it's going to be those small incremental steps. All of a sudden, you're going to notice over a course of time. And don't call it a New Year's resolution. Just say I'm making some lifestyle changes. See, when you start looking at it from a place of lifestyle changes, they seem more permanent. But don't kick yourself when the thing that you've committed to do, you didn't do it on the first few days. Just keep setting the plate before you, the goal before you. Give you a practical example. Last year, there were some times that I was dropping off from my workout program. And it was because I was making the workout too massive. There was too many things that I felt like I had to go down and do and accomplish, and so I'm like, I'm feeling overwhelmed. So what I was finding myself doing occasionally, I would miss a whole week and not work out. And when I would go to work out, all of a sudden, all this noise, all this chatter, and so we're going to talk briefly on how to interrupt ego. I committed. I said, this is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to go down, set my smartphone timer to 30 minutes. And whatever I do in those 30 minutes, it's enough. And so now it wasn't that I had to do this big exhausted workout. I just need to get down into my gym and show up, turn on the 30 minutes, and when the 30 minutes were up, I was done. Now, the thing that I had to battle against was my self talk, ego, because it's easy to get out of routine. So, what I had to do was shut ego down. Now, what do I mean by that? Because I know this is going to be the question. When that self talk would come, I would just simply turn it off. I wouldn't give it place. You ever talk to somebody that was kind of getting on your nerves and you ignore them? That's what I did with ego. So, and I did that till I was able to get down to the place where I needed to work out and turn on the timer. You don't have to turn off ego indefinite, just to do that next step. And the other thing, when you're turning off ego, this doesn't go on feel like, or I don't feel like doing it. I turn all that off. There's times where I need to accomplish some things out in the yard. I don't tell myself why I don't feel like doing it. I turn that off for the moment. And my only objective is to get into the yard. My only objective is to get down in my gym. My only objective is to start motion towards where it is that I want to go. I don't try to figure it out. I don't go off of feelings. I have a system in place. Now, years ago, I would sometimes neglect my flossing. And what I committed to do with flossing was if I brush my teeth, flossing is a part of that process. What I'm trying to tell you that if you incorporate what it is that you're trying to do and say, this is a part of the system, turn off ego, turn off self-talk. I don't feel like doing, whatever that, turn it off for the moment. You only have to turn it off long enough to begin taking the action. Now, start with small things. Don't try the big, overwhelming task that you say, well, I'm just going to turn off. You're not. Start practicing it with, okay, I don't feel like going to the store, but there's certain things that I need. I don't feel like doing this. But if I don't get this done, my taxes aren't going to be paid. Whatever that thing is, it doesn't matter. I'm just adding some dialogue to it. What I'm saying to you is don't worry about if I feel like it or not. Don't worry about the rain. It's raining outside. Don't worry. Your job is to simply shut off ego for the moment and begin doing that thing that you've committed to do. And what you're going to see is as you do this over and over again, one day you're going to look back on your life. This is what the most successful people you see in entertainment, the people that you see as the millionaires, the billionaires, and so forth, they don't go off of their feelings. Now, I know that feeling is the secret, but the feeling is the secret can sometimes get you stuck. If you're saying, well, I'm going to do it when I feel like it, you can't do that. That's immaturity. You have to begin being mature enough saying, listen, this is something that needs to be done, and I want the benefits of taking this action in the moment in my future. So you have to be willing to say, listen, I'm going to silence that voice for the moment so that I can do what needs to happen in this moment so that I can create the life that I want. Many people make this stuff so otherworldly, so mystical, so magical, so only a few people can do it, that we don't do the practical stuff that's needed to be successful. But I promise you, if you start doing the practical stuff to create the life that you desire, one day others are going to look back on your life and they're going to see it as a miracle because they're going to be so amazed. And I've seen this time and time and time again. I've seen this with friends. I've seen this with siblings. I've seen this in my own life. What's going to happen is you're going to start creating momentum that I spoke of earlier, and you're going to start creating that life that you desire. But it starts off with your having a system. If you think that this is going to happen haphazardly, you're sadly mistaken. It's not. No matter what coach tells you, most of these people are lying to you because, of course, they're trying to make a sale. So they want you to think there's going to be easily and nothing on your part. You got to understand, people like Neville and Dr. Joseph Murphy, Reverend Ike, and all the people that you may like listen to are some of the most disciplined people that you'll ever see in your life. People don't like the word discipline, but without it, you're not going to be able to forge the life that you desire. You're not. And I'm just giving it to you real. I could tell you that only thing you got to do is click your heels 3 times and magically your life is going to be what it is that you want. You got to click your heel 3 times and then you got to put in the work of who it is that you want to be doing. You got to clothe yourself in that person, and you got to do it consistently and persistently. And we'll touch on that in just a moment. But you got to keep showing up as that person, and then one day you're going to show up as that person without even thinking about it. But let's move forward. So feel it fully. Be that person. Live from being that person. Now, what's going to happen is the next stage, you're going to eliminate doubt. As you consistently, persistently keep doing this, you're going to start building up confidence. You're going to start realizing, man, I can do this. You're going to learn some things about making money. You're going to learn some things about relationships. You're going to learn some things about health. And you're going to say, man, this is doable. I can do this. This is what you've done your whole life, from the time that you learn how to tell time, how you learn how to tie your shoes, various things, doing your hair, whatever the thing is that you do naturally, effortlessly right now. It started with you taking repetition and doing it over and over again to one day you didn't even think about it. This is how everything is created. People will give you the impression that you can bypass these things and all of a sudden magically your life's going to be transformed. It's not going to happen. Is as you're consistently and persistently living from your desired end, one day it's going to be your current lifestyle. And it becomes your current lifestyle now. You do what you do because that's who you become. That's who you are. You've clothed yourself in being a multimillionaire. You've clothed yourself in loving relationship. You've clothed yourself in better health. So because everything's happening in the now, even though you think that it's going to be some future event, you're actually fashioning that person right now. You're being that person, right? You can't be that person in the future. Everything always happens right now. So when you feel it real, you just got to understand. And let me say this. I often say this. I haven't said this in a while. Your energy system, your spiritual being having a human experience. Why is this relevant? Whatever you find yourself in agreement with as an energy system, a spiritual being, universe, this hologram called reality, some call it the matrix, will agree with you. And it will begin to go about to show you the evidence. And even if at first you don't even believe what it is that you're saying is true, it doesn't matter. You keep speaking it. When you couldn't tie your shoe, all those hundreds of thousands of things that you've learned how to do in your life, when you first started it, you had no clue that you didn't even know how to do it. But over a course of time, you started doing it without even thinking about it. And this is how abundance, this is how loving relationship, this is how better health is going to show up in your life. It's going to show up, matter of fact, it's going to show up so natural that you're going to say, it would have happened anyway. Now, the truth of the matter is, it wouldn't have happened without you becoming the person that allowed the conduit for it to flow through your spiritual system. But because you started operating in your noun as that person, it began to show up in your life, and the evidence began to show up in your life. So eliminate doubt, but you eliminate doubt by doing. You eliminate fear by doing. You eliminate procrastination by doing. As you consistently, persistently do the thing that's uncomfortable, pretty soon it becomes comfortable for you. And so much so, when you're not doing it, you kind of feel out of sorts. When I'm not doing my workout program, I feel out of sorts. But, at that moment, I've gotten complacent, and I find myself comfortable being in that complacency, but I still feel like I need to be working out. And certainly when 1 week turns into 2 weeks, and if it goes longer than that, then I find myself a mess. I don't even function at the same level. I don't walk, I don't talk, I don't carry myself the same. You'll do likewise once you make that your new habit. So eliminate doubt. I've been talking about this throughout the discussion, but the S in manifest is set a system. You're going to be setting systems in place. Again, we're not setting goals, we're setting lifestyle parameters. We're setting things, and I'm incorporating this small action, this small step into, I'm going to incorporate a workout because that's who I want to be. I want to see myself looking fit in my mirror. I want to see myself operating from a place of better health. I want to see myself in loving relationship. I want to see myself attracting abundance. So I'm going to set these things in place so that even though it may not be my reality so-called at the moment, I'm setting them in place so that I can have them in my next moment of now. So set yourself up a system, something that you can follow on a daily basis till it becomes habit, till it becomes lifestyle, till you start seeing the results, and you will see the results. Okay, next thing, the T in manifest and last is what you're going to do is start taking consistent action. You're going to start doing and being the person that you need to do and be. You're going to clothe yourself in the ideology. And let's say you say, well, coach, I don't know how to do that. There's somebody that you're watching that does know how to do it. So for the moment, start clothing yourself in their persona. I remember there's a guy by the name of Brandon Burchard, and I've seen other people do this. When he first started speaking, he clothed himself. Now, he did not outright say it, but I heard it. He clothed himself, and he mentioned the person, but like I said, he didn't say that he was being Tony Robbins, as it were. And I've seen other people take on Tony Robbins' persona until they were able to clothe themselves in their own persona. I see people clothe themselves in Neville Goddard's persona, and that's great. But eventually, in clothing yourself, let's say in a Neville Goddard, a Joseph Murphy, Dr. Joe Dispenza, whomever your teacher is, first you clothe yourself in their ideology, their knowledge, their information. But what's going to happen over a course of time as you start living this out, it's going to take on its own voice, your own unique voice. You're going to start coming up with your own unique principles, your own unique theories that are relevant to you because you're living this stuff out. And you're going to say, well, in my living this out, this is what I discovered. And you're going to start teaching from what it is that you discovered. And now all of a sudden, even though you start off, and even Tony Robbins had a mentor, his name was Jim Rohn. And Jim Rohn had a mentor, his was Earl Shoaff. My whole point is everybody clothed themselves in somebody until they became the person that they desired to be. So even if you don't know how to be more loving, there's somebody that you're following that does. Even if you don't know how to make more money, there's somebody that you're following or you can follow that does. Even if you don't know how to occupy a state of better health, there's somebody out there that's teaching how to do this. Clothe yourself in the moment in their persona. Take on their ideologies. But what's going to happen is you're going to learn your own voice. A person that I love dearly that has done this is Mr. Lindo. He started off listening to Neville teaching repeatedly, but as he listened and listened, pretty soon he discovered his own voice, his own message. You know, and a lot of times people hear student of Neville, it's like Louise Barley, Neville's student. When you hear her, she's talking some of Neville's principles, but she's got her own unique philosophy that's unique to herself. And likewise with Mr. Lindo. So people listen to Mr. Lindo and they're like, well, I want to hear Neville. He's not Neville. He's not ever going to be Neville. No more than I would ever be Mr. Lindo. We learn from our teachers, but then we begin to discover our own unique voice. And, listen, I have a concern with a person that's been listening to Neville Goddard for 10, 15, 20 years, and they haven't discovered their own unique message. What Neville didn't do, being a student of Abdullah, he took the principles that Abdullah taught him, but he didn't go about trying to mimic Abdullah. Neville discovered his own unique voice, and he poured into him also other teachers other than Abdullah. And likewise with you, Creator, Neville Goddard is a wonderful teacher. Good to see you. Neville Goddard is a wonderful teacher, but that's not where you're supposed to stay. I was communicating with someone that was processing some stuff, and we had a conversation, and she says, well, Neville's the only person that I listen to, and I don't need to discover my own unique voice, because if that's where you want to be, that's fine, but that was never Neville's goal. Neville's goal was never to be worshipped. He said, I don't want you to get down and bow and cross yourself and so forth. The goal is I was processing that question. I didn't know if that was a question or a statement, so I didn't know. But your goal should be to become the best version of you. What Neville and other spiritual teachers always point to is you discovering who the divine is for you. The goal of our channel, the goal of our work is never to tell you what to believe, but that you believe. And according to as you believe, that's what's going to show up in your life. Again, I've given you some stuff. I don't expect you to remember everything. Once the broadcast is done, which is almost there, I'll go back and upload, the 8 steps of manifesting to create the life that you want. But guys, understand this. You're doing this 24/7. What we suggest is that you do this more purposefully to create the life that you desire, because you're going to create a life, whether what other people have deemed for you or what you've chosen for yourself. Why not direct your own inner conversation towards the life that you want to be, do, and have? Hey, this is Coach DeCarlo. Until we speak next week, love you, appreciate you. Have a wonderful, great, awesome 2026.